You've all been there before at some point. It's down to the wire, you're about to make your big play, and then... that is gonna hurt. What? You get frozen. You're a popsicle. And you only have a wheel spin of a chance of thawing out and attacking. But what if this wasn't the case? What if we had another version of this mechanic in Pokemon? Well, if you've played Legends Arceus, then you might know what I'm talking about. Let's discuss this, shall we?
Is there more to us than the words we say, the games we play? Can we know that we're not dreaming?
Trainers hate having their Pokemon put to sleep. They also hate having their Pokemon being burned. They hate when they get paralyzed, and we also hate when they get poisoned. But mostly, we hate being put into a block of ice because of just how random it is. Just to explain how random it is to be frozen, there are 6 possible moves that can cause freeze, with only one having less than 10% of a chance of causing it, which is Tri-Attack. And the 7th is one that no longer exists past Generation 7. Just to put into perspective of how few moves there are that cause freeze, there are 19 moves, 20 if you include one from Gale of Darkness, that cause burn. 28 for paralysis, that includes special Z moves and moves from Gale of Darkness, as well as past generations, and 12 that cause sleep, which also includes special moves from past generations and side games as well. The odds of you being frozen are so low in a normal game that you're almost never going to see it happen. But when it does happen... why? 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 How can you freeze fire? Oh, you feel it worse than any other status condition in the game, because your Pokemon is all but removed from the fight. While frozen, your Pokemon can't move, it can't attack, protect, and all it can do is sit there in a frozen block of ice. You may say it's like sleep, because a sleeping Pokemon can't do the same either, but there's a huge difference between sleep and freeze. Starting from Generation 5, sleep only lasts between 1 and 3 turns, with only the first turn being mandatory, meaning you're likely to either wake up turn 2 or turn 3 with a very high chance. Furthermore, with sleep, there's a move called Sleep Talk, which allows you to use moves even while sleeping, but it only works if your Pokemon is asleep, of course. With freeze, however, you've only got a 20% chance to thaw out at any turn. Unless you're hit by a move like Scald, or a fire-type move like Flamethrower, or your frozen Pokemon uses a move like Flare Blitz, you cannot thaw out. I'm going to play a little game with you, and this wheel will demonstrate it. Guess how many turns it takes me to thaw out. Turn 1, you get frozen, you have a 20% chance to thaw out. Nope, you're a frozen popsicle still. What about turn 2? Well, nope, turn 2 is a nope, you're still frozen. Turn 3, unfortunately, you're still a block of ice. Finally, on turn 4, you can let it go, and again, your Pokemon cannot do anything. Not until you hit that 20% chance. Unlike sleep, you can't really play around the status unless you're a fire type naturally or can use certain moves on yourself, which can be a risk given the situation. During that time, your opponent could set up freely, ignoring your frozen Pokemon entirely and do whatever they wanted, while you're basically down a team member. So, what about this other condition that I talked about? Well, in Legends Arceus, there is a condition that replaces freeze called Frostbite, and this basically is the burn for special attackers. A Pokemon that's afflicted with Frostbite will suffer 1/16 of their max HP and damage at the end of the turn, while also having their special attack cut in half. It's self-explanatory. If you know how burn works, it's basically the same but for special attackers. And physical attackers, we know your pain. You hate it when you're intimidated or burned, or heck, even both. But let's face it, at least you're able to attack when you're burned or intimidated. And yes, while your damage may get neutered a bit, you have ways around it. If you're lucky and you have Sword Stance as a move, you can go one Sword Stance and you're back to where you were in terms of damage output. And again, you're still able to attack, you're still able to use Protect, you're still able to move in the fight, and if you can attack, you have the chance for crits to help even the odds. Also, if Frostbite stayed as a permanent condition replacing Freeze, we could get moves that allowed us to cause Frostbite. Imagine shutting down Fluttermane's damage output with a Prankster Frostbite causing move. I mean, so many people use Will-O-Wisp on physical attackers, why can't special attackers get a bit of the same medicine? Plus, you've probably been in a situation where you don't need to deal maximum damage, just a little bit more to secure a KO. I asked Professor Ragnar this question, and he said he won a match at a regional, I think, where his opponent lost because his last Pokemon got frozen. Imagine being so close to victory, but because your Pokemon turned into a popsicle, you had to spin a wheel to determine if you win or lose the fight.
Freeze is such an annoying mechanic. I actually froze someone in SAC and it costed them the game. I was like, hey, I'm doing bad in this tournament already. I need whatever wins I can get, you know? So, totally froze someone's Urshifu in the end game and it costed them the loss, or the win rather. I was actually so surprised they lived my Freeze Dry and Fake Out, because I did Fake Out on their Urshifu, their Water Urshifu, and then Freeze Dry with Iron Bundle, and they still lived through all of that. So the freeze bailed me out.
In fact, let's do that right now. Let's pretend you're using a Fluttermane. Your opponent has like 35 HP, and all you need to do is deal just enough damage to win. You don't need full power Flutter, just enough to win. And you were frostbitten. You'd suffer a 50% penalty, but you'd at least win. But since this is the freeze mechanic, you're a popsicle instead. You put your battle's outcome on the wheel and determine if you get the 20% chance to thaw out. And you'd lose. And yeah, you might ask, what if it was the start of the fight instead? Would it suck to have your Flutter frostbitten turn 1? Yeah, it would. But, you know, would its damage output be any more or less than if your opponent had a light screen up instead? You'd be relying on crits to overcome that barrier anyway. Both Frostbite and Light Screen reduce special attacks by 50%. Anyway, that's just my opinion. I prefer Frostbite, and I haven't even suffered it once. I'd rather be able to attack still at reduced damage output than have my Mon sit helplessly while the opponent sets up 3 Dragon Dances for free. But what about you though? Do you think I'm an idiot? Do you think I have a point? Leave your opinion in the comments down below, and then tell me if you'd like to hear me discuss drowsiness and sleep. Oh, would you look at that? Even Arceus is, dozing off. But in any case, I'm Fedora Reshiram. I'll see you all next time. Consider liking the video, subscribing if you like what I talk about, and help my channel grow. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye!
When you've reached the point where you can't go on, just come to me, you'll be safe from harm. If you trust in me, then I'll trust in you. There's nothing more that I need to do. If you put your hands in front of mine, we'll be shining.